Good evening and welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting for December 8th, 2021. We're a little bit slow today, my apologies. We're starting at 6:03 p.m. At this time, I'd like to confirm the agenda. So are there any emergent items from any of the councillors? Seeing none, are there any emergent items from administration? Then I'm looking for a motion to confirm the agenda as presented.
I would move to confirm the December 8th agenda, Your Worship.
Thank you for that motion, and I'll call the question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. We have no presentations, and we have one delegation tonight. And just before we get started, I know there's probably a lot of people watching from home. We have a very small audience today, but if you're watching at home, there's been a lot of angst and concern out in the public. And I just want to reassure you that this entire council feels very strongly about doing the best thing possible for the seniors in the community. And we know that transportation is very important. I've had 2 meetings already with the new chair of the Wheatland Handybus Association. They were very good meetings. Our acting CAO was a part of one of them. And I've also had conversations with different councillors at different times. And I just want to reassure everyone at home that we all understand the importance of the Handybus Association, and we will have discussion tonight and questions about the Memorandum of Understanding, but there has been a lot of concern in the public that possibly didn't have to be as worrisome as it became, and we're looking to do a good job for the public tonight and look at everything that's being presented to us. So we have a delegation tonight, and I'd like to welcome Christy Schwarek from the Wheatland Lodge, who is going to be speaking to us. Welcome, Christy.
Thank you. Well, maybe I don't have to talk if it's going to go so great. Your Worship, Mayor Fuel, and members of Council, good evening and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Christy Schwarek, and I was asked to talk with you on behalf of many residents within the town of Strathmore and Wheatland County who currently do utilize the services offered by the Strathmore Handybus Association. The residents of Strathmore and Wheatland County are requesting your continued support of the Handybus service in ensuring that the Memorandum of Understanding that is being discussed later this evening is approved to ensure that this valuable service will continue for them now and into the future. For some of these residents, such as those with disabilities, as well as many seniors within our community, the Handybus is their only means of transportation to and from their appointments. And this is primarily due to their limited mobility and the required use of a wheelchair or a walker. I have worked within this healthcare system in Strathmore for many years in various capacities, such as with our home care team, as well as in my current role as the resident manager within the Wheatland Lodge. Through these experiences, I have accompanied numerous residents on their Handybus trips to medical appointments within Strathmore, as well as I have companioned them as they had specialized appointments in Calgary at clinics or at hospitals. I'm going to share with you a few of these examples of the types of residents who might use these specialized services that are provided by the Handybus. There are many residents in our community who require ongoing kidney dialysis and cancer treatments. These type of treatments require our residents to travel to Calgary multiple times per week at a current cost of anywhere between $65 and $70 per round trip. These residents do not have a choice about taking these trips, as they need them to remain alive, and we don't offer those services here in Strathmore. In some situations, there is not a family member or a spouse that is able to drive them to Calgary, or they cannot take the time off from their employment numerous times a week to go to Calgary. And for these individuals, the Handybus has been there for them, ensuring that they are receiving these life-saving treatments that they require. There is one couple that was going to be here tonight, but unfortunately couldn't make it, and they were going to offer their testimonial as well. So I'm sorry that they weren't able to come. For residents in the community who are disabled, it's the responsibility of all levels of government to ensure that they have equal access to all community services, which includes transportation. And living within the rural community that we do, the Handy Bus offers the only service that can offer this to these residents, as other means of public transportation do not offer the ability to transport those with electric or manual wheelchairs. The Handy Bus makes the difference for these residents in ensuring that they are not isolated in their home versus being able to participate fully in everyday community life, which includes shopping trips, attending their church services, their medical appointments, and any other social outings that they choose to attend. Earlier this year, I had a meeting with the FCSS team to discuss the process around the town of Strathmore becoming a certified age-friendly community. There are 8 different domains or categories of community life that must be met by a community who is considering becoming an age-friendly certified community, and one of these is transportation. Not only does this category discuss the infrastructure of the town, such as the roads, parking, snow removal, etc., it highly focuses on the transportation services as well. Strathmore currently meets the standard required for transportation services that pertain to the aging in place criteria in the following ways. The accessible transportation is already available for our residents. It's reliable and it meets the needs of our citizens. The vans and buses are well maintained. Strathmore has accessible transportation that is available to take our citizens to medical appointments, shopping excursions, and community events through the operations of the Handy Bus. And Strathmore offers accessible transportation for people with a variety of disabilities, including mobility challenges. Should the MOU not be approved this evening, Strathmore will need to add this to their list of areas that will need to be addressed should they choose to pursue the Aging and Friendly certification in the future. The Handy Bus will take suggestions and ideas from the community and works extremely hard to accommodate them if they can. An example of this is that they recently extended their service operations to include weekends, evenings, and statutory holidays if these trips are pre-booked. This was one of the suggestions that we at the Lodge were asking of them, and since COVID has come in, the hospitals and clinics and testing centers are all offering hours of tests that were being not during business hours, so that was a huge help for us. They listened to our request, and as I said, if the trips are pre-booked, they will accommodate the best they can. Our senior population relies on the services of the Handy Bus that they provide us each day. There's not a day that I don't sit at my desk looking out my window that I don't see multiple Handy Buses driving in and out of that parking lot. On the information that you did receive in your agenda package from the Handy Bus Association, you'll see that at the Lodge alone, we have 47 registered riders. So if you think that our maximum capacity at the Lodge is 95 residents, it shows you right there the need of that service. Almost half of the residents who live at the Lodge at this time are registered to use the Handy Bus at different times. So that's only the numbers for the Lodge. You still need to consider the rest of the community. Over 30 residents are registered at Sagewood, and out of the total registered clients at the end of October of 2021, there's 205 registered clients. 197 of them live in Strathmore. So that's a big number. This service is integral in assisting and in maintaining the health and welfare of our residents. It also assists our residents' families. As I say, they don't have to take time from work, or for those that do not live in our area, they're comforted to know their loved one is safely transported to and from their appointments. So with these Handy Bus drivers, the biggest thing to know about them is they know the residents in our community. They know them by name, which is an important benefit for the resident. They get to know where they're going. They get to know what assistance they might need. They're trained. They're able to make quick decisions when they're needed. And they always ensure the safety of our passengers. And the thing with that is when I did go on these trips with them, What I appreciated was these handy bus drivers actually ensure that the resident is wheeled into the clinic or the hospital. They're given a business card with their name and their number, and they say to you, when you're finished, you call me and I'll come and get you. And every time they did. So when those appointments were done, we called them on their cell phones. They pulled right up to the front. If you couldn't get out that door on your own, they came, they wheeled you out and loaded you up safely. And it's not everyone that knows how to transport oxygen properly and safely, and that's something that's really important. The residents who use the handy bus are grateful to the town of Strathmore for the many years in which you have continued to financially support this handy bus association, which has enabled them to provide a reliable and a professional service. I can't discuss the data, statistics, financial statements, or any of that as I'm not on the Handy Bus Association board, but I know for sure that there are representatives that will be able to answer those questions for you. The Handy Bus is in business to provide safe transportation to those who need it, not to turn a profit. This service needs the funding provided to them by the town of Strathmore through the MOU that has been offered to balance its annual budget. Earlier this week, I sent a letter to you, and it is part of your agenda package as well, which includes many residents, family members, staff members at our lodge, and others who wanted to share their support in asking that this MOU be approved this evening, and hopefully you received that information and had the time to see how important the handy bus service is to our community. Recently, I asked a couple of questions to CAO Lagore regarding the $175,000 that is in the MOU that is being discussed this evening. The first question that I had was to find out if the money being requested is allocated in the 2021 Town of Strathmore budget. He assured me that it was there and that this amount would also be budgeted for the next year as well, 2022, unless that's directed otherwise by you, our council. This information has also been supported in the documents attached to your agenda for tonight. The other question I asked him was that if tonight, December 8th, would be the deadline for this important decision to be made regarding this MOU, as I needed to better understand the timeline. The answer I received was that the last meeting for this year will be December 15th, and that your decision must be made by then for this year's support to be given to the handy bus for 2021. In closing, I ask you to reflect on this. In October, many of you were invited to our lodge to talk to the seniors about some of their key questions, concerns, their areas of importance to them should you become their new town council. We asked many questions, but the one I want to discuss is the question the residents wanted to have an answer on regarding the outstanding MOU that was still not approved by the town to reassure them that the handy bus service would be here for them long into the future. The answers we heard were that this would be a top priority for the new council. We were very reassured that everything would be done that would ensure this handy bus service remained in place and as a viable service to the community. The seniors and residents of our community are counting on this to happen, and that as of this evening, this will not be a concern or discussion that they need to have any longer. These are your neighbors, your family members, your friends, and they do trust you. So on that note, I ask you to please ensure you focus on making sure they have a means of transportation to and from their appointments and for social outings for many years to come. Thank you very much for your time and for hearing me out.
Thank you, Christy, for your presentation. And councillors, I'll start with questions first. If anybody has any questions for Christy. And if there are no questions, then I'm looking for a motion. And then if there's discussion following the motion, we can get into that. So the motion, I believe, is on page 2 of 87 on your package, in your package. Councillor Wegener.
I move that we accept the presentation regarding the Strathmore Handy Bus Service as information.
Thank you. We have the motion on the floor. Is there any discussion on the motion or comments? Councillor Peterson.
I just want to thank Christy and her representation. And I just want to point out that this representation has not been just tonight, but for a long time, for years. And I really think tonight in listening to you that the difference between empathy and judgment is always in knowing the story. And I really appreciate you bringing the story. Thank you.
Any other comments from councillors? Then I'll call the question. All in favor? And the motion is carried. Thank you again, Christy, for your report and speaking so forcefully but politely on behalf of the seniors. And we know that it's an important issue. We all understand that. Thank you. That brings us to the confirmation of minutes, 5.1 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes for September 8th, 2021. Councillor Langmaid.
I move that council adopt the September 8th, 2021 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes as presented.
Thank you. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? And the motion is carried. 5.2 Special Committee of the Whole meeting minutes for September 8th, 2021. Councillor Langmaid.
I move that council adopt the September 8th, 2021 Special Committee of the Whole meeting minutes as presented. Pardon me.
Thank you for that. It was enjoyable to listen to. All in favor? And that motion is carried. We have no unfinished business tonight. We have no tabled items or reports. And item 8, items reports from administration. 8.1, Strathmore Handybus MOU, which is on page 14 of our agenda. Mr. Teedy, are you speaking first to this? Good evening and welcome, Mel.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council in the agenda package has the information that was requested by the board, or requested by council from the board. In addition to that, I've provided some commentary of a financial nature in the report. And I'm here to answer questions if council has questions concerning the report or financial information. Over the last 12 years, I've sat on the board as the representative from the town and provided financial accounting statements to the board over that period of time.
Thank you. And council will follow the same process. If you have questions for Mel first, if you do have, before we go on to questions, I do want to take a moment to introduce the new chairperson of the Handybus Association. He's a gentleman who I've been lucky enough to be on a board with before with the Wheatland Housing Management Board several years back. But Mr. Mark Jabot was elected at the annual general meeting, and he will be the chair. And just from what I've seen so far, it's just reinforced and reminded me of what a quality person you are. And I don't think that association could come close to a better choice at this time for the board to have as the chair. So we welcome you, and we look forward to working with you towards hopefully coming up with a good MOU for both sides. And since he's a new chairperson, council, he may not have all the answers to the questions you might have for him, but if you do have some for him, he'll do his best. But he just recently became the chair as of last week. Mr. Legore.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we've been dealing with this MOU since February. And I think it's time for council to make a decision. Either we support the handybus or we sever the ties with the handybus. We're causing a lot of unnecessary angst among seniors, not only within the town of Strathmore, but within the county and our 3 neighboring villages. If council has concerns about the level of service or how it's being provided, that needs to be dealt with at the board. And our rep will hopefully be a voting member if we get this MOU approved. We'll be able to deal with that there. We have the funds in the 2021 budget. We have the funds in the 2022 budget. On years going forward, if council is concerned about the service, if that feedback is coming back to you, you can deal with that through the budget process on what level of funding you should provide. But I think it's time that we moved on. We're getting near the end of the year. We have the money set aside. There's no question, as Christy has eloquently described, this is an essential service for our area and our community, and we need to move forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and we're prepared to answer any questions.
Thank you. So councillors, we'll start with questions again. If you have a question, you have a discussion point, then,
No, I just was going to put a motion on.
okay, are there questions first? Councillor Montgomery, or Deputy Mayor Montgomery?
Thank you. So a question for administration. Has this MOU been approved by the board of the Handy Bus?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I'm not speaking out of turn, in our meeting today with the new chairperson for the Handy Bus Association, he feels that the board is prepared, certainly the members that he's talked to are prepared to support this MOU, and that we can move forward.
Okay, but it hasn't been officially approved by the Handy Bus board. This is kind of us sending it to them for approval, essentially?
To you, Mr. Mayor, my understanding is that there is a board meeting on December 16th, and they will formalize it at that time, which is after our last meeting, and I'm hopeful that we can get this finalized tonight from the town's perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we in committee of the whole right now?
Well, we are not in committee of the whole. Normally we have a motion to go in committee of the whole, but I've been instructed that that's not necessarily the way you have to go as far as procedure. Jonathan?
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. Actually, when the meeting was called to order, you called the committee of the whole to order, so we don't need a motion to go into committee of the whole.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor?
So I guess I'll start by just talking about the MOU itself. I don't see many problems with it. The only issue that I've kind of consistently raised is just to do with the what's called the bus barn.
Deputy Mayor, if I could just stop you for a moment. Are you discussing, or do you have another question? Because if we're following the proper process, if we're going to have discussion, we should have a motion on the floor.
I can put a
Well,
motion.
this is
debate.
committee of the whole, isn't it? So we don't have motions in committee of the whole?
I suppose you're
Yes,
right.
we can.
Jonathan?
Your Worship and Council, because we're in committee of the whole, we don't need to have a motion on the floor to discuss the MOU.
Discuss it.
Go ahead then, Deputy Mayor, sorry.
That's okay, thank you. So yeah, and for people that aren't kind of aware, I guess, of the history, so the town, the county, and the province all gave money to the Handy Bus Association years ago to construct a steel sheeted building, essentially, that was attached to one of our buildings. And so in this MOU, it's asking, well, it's essentially stating that the town will pay out essentially what was granted to the association to construct that barn. I question whether or not this is providing good value. It's not, it's essentially would be, like the money it essentially would be, if we were to give them the funding they're asking for and then to give them the money that they want for the bus barn, it would be just basically piling more money into a reserve for them. And so as much as I believe that the Handy Bus, should be funded, I don't see the purpose of just kind of piling money into a reserve for them. So yeah, I guess I'm open to hear, I guess, and when I was the president of the association, I spoke with our former CAO and I asked for information about the bus barn itself and the legality of it, and there was nothing that could be found that said that the association had any claim at all to the bus barn. So I guess I would personally like to suggest that we do not have anything in there about paying for the bus barn. If we're gonna pay for the bus barn, I think we should probably pay back what the association contributed, which I think is probably the provincial amount, which is $106,000. I think it's fair that we probably would take back or recoup the money we put forward. And then I think it's fair probably that the county should be able to access the money that they put forward as well, since the association won't be using it. So that's something that's something I would like to see changed in the MOU. And I guess I'll open it up for discussion if anyone wants to comment on that.
Just a question for you. So if that, maybe Mr. Legore, you can answer it. It says that the town and county granted the Handy Bus Association monies in the amount of $75,000, and that's for the bus barn?
To you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct.
So, Deputy Mayor, are you saying that you would like to have that grant back of our half of that?
Well, essentially what this is saying is that the association is expecting us to pay them for the value of the bus barn when we sell that property, but they don't own the bus barn.
Don't they?
And so that's what I'm saying. I'm saying it's kind of, I'm not sure I see why we would pay the association for something that they don't own. Yeah, that's where I'm coming from, I guess.
Mr. Legore.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there will be very little value in that bus barn at the time we sell that building, which who knows when it'll be. It could be 10 years out even. But the real estate value is in land, not the building. And that building is old, and it is not going to be worth a lot when that building comes down. So from the town's perspective, I don't think we need to be too concerned about the value of that barn and what happens to the funds at that time. And the town may have an alternate solution for housing the buses at that time and can come up with another agreement with the handy bus.
Yeah, and like I say, I'm certainly not against the idea of letting them continue to use it. For surety, I would like to see an actual amount that we can agree on. If we're going to actually, if it's a small amount, if it's if we're only paying them out for essentially the value of the wood and the metal, I think it would be better to come to an agreed upon amount now, rather than letting it appreciate or depreciate. There's kind of value in it for the association to confirm a value now rather than letting it deteriorate or depreciate. There's value in it for us now to know what we're getting into with a deal. I don't like deals where it says, we will pay for something that we don't know the cost of. So I guess we're not, so that's something I think that, should go back to the handy bus board perhaps, or maybe we make an offer or something like that. Because, the numbers here is, it's basically saying 175,000 or 180,000 essentially, is what the cost was. So, anything approaching that amount I'm concerned about. If it's 20,000, then let's just say $20,000 is what they're gonna get. I don't like leaving it open-ended, personally.
Your worship.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I just have a question.
Councillor Peterson.
So, to administration, so the handy bus continues to use the bus barn, correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, the handy bus continue to use the.
And if that land goes unsold, indefinitely or for the next 5 to 6 years, they would potentially continue to use the bus barn.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is certainly the intent, is that is their facility and they will continue to use it.
And we were told some time ago, I think before the 2017 election, that there was very little value left in that building at that time. I remember Councillor Blockland talking about that at the time, that it may need some upgrades. So there is a potential that at the end of the life of that building that there would be no worth to either the handy bus or to us. In fact, we may be assuming cost to just get rid of it.
It may cost you more to demolish that building than what it's worth. And if you take a tour through that building, you'll see it very quickly.
I have toured it, yes.
I guess if I could just ask a follow-up then. If the town paid $37,720.73 as a grant, and the bus barn building would be valueless possibly in a few years, the question that I might put forward is, why would we then pay again for the value of the bus barn? Is that to get them, and and maybe Mark, you can answer this, I'll see. Is that so that if you did move, you would need to be able to build a new bus barn? Is that how, Mr. Legore?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the intent was they would use that money to find an alternate location to house the buses.
Okay,
Now,
thank you for that.
Now, it's based on the appraised value at that time, and you may find that there's very little value in that building because of the condition of it.
Thank you for that clarification. Councillor Langmaid, you had a light on? Deputy Mayor Montgomery?
I just wanted to, I guess, point out that the association did allocate $100,000, I believe it was last year. They put it into a reserve for the purchase or construction of a new bus barn at some point. And again, so I guess, you know, if like, I'm not sure if, you know, where I'm being kind of comforted by knowing that, or by being told that, you know, at the end, possibly we won't be paying them anything because it's valueless. I don't think that's kind of comforting for the association. And so, like, wouldn't it be better just to make, you know, come up with some small amount, you know, if you know, even if we appraised it today, you know, and you know, figured out what the cost was, just so that the association isn't, you know, counting on something that might turn out to be nothing as well.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in an earlier version of the MOU, we had a clause in there where we would work with them to find alternate location for the bus barn, and that was removed at their request. And to me, I don't have a problem with the MOU that's before you, and that we'll look for and work with the Handy Bus Association to find an alternate location when that time comes. And I doubt that there will be any money paid out to them from the value of the current one.
Is it worth maybe just taking that out of the agreement then, if we're kind of counting on it not being worth anything?
So there's no value there in that. To begin with, don't forget, you're going to have to do an environmental reclamation on that site when that building comes down. A lot of petroleum products have gone through there in the vehicles, et cetera. There's cost to that.
Maybe I could follow up, Councilor or Deputy Mayor Montgomery. Would it be a good thing to have something in the MOU where the town would assume in writing that we will help provide a new bus barn should they have to relocate? Or is that muddying the water?
Yeah, it is.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't see a need for that in the current agreement. I think the agreement before you adequately covers it. I don't see a big exposure there to the town. And I think the Handy Bus will be more than willing to work with the town.
And I think the other part of it is we talked in our meeting today that this could possibly be a 4-year thing that could be revisited at that time. Councillor Wiley and then Councillor Peterson.
If the council isn't comfortable signing something with an unknown amount, could we put a maximum amount that the building could be worth on the MOU?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we could go back and try and renegotiate the agreement with the Handy Bus Association, but I don't know what that number would be that you would put in there. To me, there has to be some goodwill here. And I really believe that you'll find there's very little value in the building itself when it comes time to demolish that building. They're going to need another location, and the town is their major funder. Who are they going to turn to? The town. And if it's not the town, it'll be Wheatland County, because there isn't a lot of other options.
Thank you, Mr. Legore. Councillor Peterson?
I have a question, Your Worship, and that is just with regards to process. So I know that we're undertaking some new processes here in terms of a committee of the whole. So for a motion, do we need to come out of committee of the whole and rise and report? Or can we make motions within the committee of the whole?
I thank your worshiping council. If it is council's will to make a motion on this item today, we could do a waiver of notice and call a special council meeting after the committee of the whole. I think that'd probably be the neatest and cleanest way to do it.
In previous processes, Your Worship, we simply have come out of committee of the whole and did a rise and report.
So just building on what John has said, it is not our recommendation to continue with that process. That's not in alignment with best practice and not something we would recommend moving forward. We do think the cleanest way is through a waiver of notice and a special meeting, and we do have that waiver ready should council wish to proceed that way.
And as a follow-up to that, would you need unanimous approval for that special council meeting with such little notice?
We need 2/3 to sign on the waiver notice, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Legore.
So, Mr. Mayor, just to make it clear, our previous process was a regular council meeting, and we then went into committee of the whole.
Right.
This is not a regular council meeting. This is a committee of the whole, so we can't rise from committee of the whole and report. So when we adjourn the committee of the whole, we will call a special council meeting, and we have the waiver of notice for everyone to sign, and then you can deal with the two motions.
And then after that, if that were to happen, we had the special council meeting right after. Is that the meeting that we would also go from there to the in-camera item?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we can deal with that there.
Okay, thank you.
So
Councillor
then-
Peterson.
So then, Your Worship, just for clarification, in order to deal with this motion that's before us, we need to adjourn this meeting.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct, and go into the special council meeting.
So I am prepared to move adjournment of this meeting, Your Worship.
And we have that motion on the floor. Discussion on that motion, Deputy Mayor Montgomery, and then Councillor Wiley.
I was just going to say, we called this, committee of the whole to discuss the handy bus and to discuss, the handy bus, the MOU, to discuss the situation, to discuss options. I think it's probably premature to just rush into that, personally.
Yeah, I was under the impression we came tonight to meet as a committee of the whole so that we could just address our questions. Like, I'm very, very pleased with the information the handy bus has given me. I feel like 90% of my questions have been answered, but I did still want to have an opportunity to ask questions and discuss.
But we could do that through debate, correct? I'm good either way, I don't care.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, you can still ask questions when we're in the special council meeting dealing with these items, and if you wish to have the chairperson of the handy bus answer questions, that is still possible as well when you're in the special council meeting.
And I think part of the problem is that three of us were on a council before where we didn't do this process, so this new process is very alien to the one that we were trained in before. So yeah, that's confusing. So in other words, then we would have a motion to adjourn this. Then we would take the vote on whether we're in that special council meeting, and there, Councillor Wiley, I guess you'd be able to ask questions and debate.
Mr. Mayor, if I could add one thing, it's not a vote you take. We have a notice of motion here which will pass around. If we get at least 5 signatures on that, then you will have your special council meeting and you'll call it to order. And then we can deal with the 2 motions here that are before us.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wiley?
I just would prefer if we could discuss it as a committee of the whole instead of specific questions in a motion.
See, this is confusing because if we're in committee of the whole, we can't have motions. You can ask questions, but if you want to discuss, we have to put a motion on the floor, but we can't put a motion on the floor because we're in committee of the whole. So unless it's a question you're asking, we can't discuss or debate right now.
You can be having discussion on the item. What we're saying is we came prepared that if council was ready to move and make a decision on this item, then we're ready to act by moving forward with the special meeting, if that's the will of council. If not, if council wants to continue with the committee of the whole, that's certainly open to council as well.
Okay, I think I understand. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I'll just say one thing, I guess, while I have the chance. So I had concerns about the.
Oh, right. Okay. So there is a motion to adjourn, so I guess if you have discussion on that motion.
Yeah.
There is no discussion.
There's a motion to adjourn on the floor.
Okay.
Okay, well, I guess with regards to the motion, like, actually, I plan on voting for the MOU as is. However, I just find that this is kind of getting rid of the whole idea or the whole meaning of why we decided to have a committee of the whole.
point of
about
order,
the
Your
omnibus.
Okay, I will grant that point of order because we have a motion to adjourn.
Right, I'm talking about the motion to adjourn, though. It's not debatable. It's not? Oh.
Kara, is Is a motion to adjourn debatable? I know a motion to recess is not debatable.
It's not debatable, Mr. Mayor, sorry.
Thank you. Okay, then I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion to adjourn? And opposed? Okay, so the motion to adjourn is carried. We're now adjourned, so we can make motions and debate those motions. So we will be passing around a form to see if enough of council is in agreement to go into a special council meeting for the debate and discussion and potential vote on the Handy Bus MOU. Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, the intent of Committee of the Whole is so council can have a formal, fulsome discussion on a topic without making any decisions. You make the decisions at a subsequent meeting. The intent is it was to deal with this tonight. That's why this is different than what it would normally be. Thank you.